material, y como somos poquitos, since there's few of us, we'll probably have more time for questions, okay? Deferred action, what is it? It is an executive order. It's not a law, so just as swiftly as it came, it can go away. And a lot will depend on the result of our election. We have to be very, very aware that this isn't citizenship, this isn't permanent residency. This is only a temporary program that enables a lot of young people to obtain a work permit. Now, the process is relatively simple, and many of you can do it on your own. If you don't have any criminal history or any arrests, I am fairly confident that you can do it on your own if you read the instructions, and if you follow the instructions. Don't take shortcuts, because if you miss any part of the information that they're requesting, they will deny your application, and you cannot appeal a denial. Now, the forms are all online, and they're free to obtain, and they're on the immigration website, www.uscis.gov. I can give you the list of the forms now, and I'm going to give you an overview of who can apply. Who can apply? Sorry, I just did the last one. The last one, the room was practically full, and now it's just a handful of us. If you entered the United States before the age of 16, have lived here continuously for the past 5 years, as of June 15, 2012, we're under the age of 31. And if you have no criminal history that makes you ineligible, you can obtain a work permit under deferred action. It's important that you know that you have to meet these requirements. The educational requirement is also important. You have to either have graduated from high school, be in school, have your GED, or have successfully been discharged from the military. So most of you are high school graduates. You meet the educational component. There's no need to start freaking out over why you're not currently in college. So that's very important. You have high school, you're done. You meet that requirement. The forms are very simple to fill out. The main form is a 6-page form. Most is comprised of fill in the blanks, some checking boxes, yes or no, with very simple information such as your name, your date of birth, your place of birth, your current addresses, where you've lived for the past 5 years, the date you first entered into the United States, and questions about your criminal history. Of those 6 pages, only 4 pages have substantive questions. The last 2 pages are signature pages for yourself and for whoever is helping you fill out your deferred action packet. So the questions are relatively simple. In addition to the main form, you will fill out the request for the work authorization. And that form is I-765. Now the cost for the process is $465, and that includes the employment authorization or the work permit, and that also includes any costs associated with getting you fingerprinted. It's very important that you realize that the documentation that you will attach to your application is the important part of your application. You need to provide proof that you've been in the United States for the past 5 years. If you have transcripts that take you up to the current date, great. If you have worked, if you have medical records, dental records, church records if you are a member, anything you can provide that has your name and the date within the last 5 years, you should submit to the department, to USCIS, for them to consider it as part of your documentation showing that you've been here for the past 5 years. Now, you have to have entered the United States before the age of 16. So, when you turn 16, figure out the year, and then look to see if you have documents already in your possession, such as transcripts, that can fulfill that requirement for immigration. It's very important that you do take the time to read those instructions. Now, if you're a high school graduate, you are going to submit a copy of your diploma. If you're in school, if you're in college now, you don't have to provide proof that you are in college for the educational component, because your high school diploma does that. But perhaps your transcripts will help you meet or establish the continuous 5-year residency period that they do require. There are certain crimes that will disqualify you from being a candidate for deferred action. Felonies. Any type of felony will disqualify you, but also significant misdemeanors. Significant misdemeanors, even though you've never spent a day in jail, will disqualify you. And one of the most common among our young people are domestic violence and driving under the influence. So one single DUI will make you ineligible for deferred action, and you need to be aware of that. And you need to be aware that you can't pay anybody any amount of money so that that problem that you had 2 years ago goes away and you become automatically a candidate. You have to be careful, and you have to, if you don't do the process yourself, make sure you go to an attorney. And if you don't go to an attorney and you go to somebody else, make sure that that person signs the application as the person that assisted you in its completion. There is a space for that person to identify him or herself on the application. And when people go and are reluctant to fill that out, that's never, ever a good sign. In addition to the main application, you are also going to submit, as I mentioned, the request for the employment authorization. The one question on there that everybody gets confused is number 16. So if you're going to write anything down, write this down. Question number 16 on the work authorization. The answer is letter C, 33. It asks you what category makes you eligible, and then it sends you to the instructions for you to figure out where you fit in. And this usually gets people confused. I get more questions about that particular inquiry than anything else regarding deferred action. So I'm just giving you the answer now. It's C, 33. After you submit your documents for deferred action, you will be getting receipts from USCIS. If you fill out an additional form, which is the G1145, they will let you know via email and or text that they have received your application. And after that application is received and processed, they will eventually also send you an appointment for you to get fingerprinted. And after you're fingerprinted and everything clears, you should be getting your work authorization in the mail. There is no interview process as part of the deferred action process. Deferred action serves two purposes. One is to provide our young people with a work authorization, people that have never been in deportation proceedings. But second, it also affords those that are in deportation proceedings the ability to have their deportation proceedings halted and deferred, and for them to have a work authorization. Questions? I think you had a question earlier.
Oh yeah, you said that we have to submit a document that says that we've been here for the past few years. Do I submit multiple transcripts from middle school and elementary school, or can I just submit like a religious service that I did the past 5 years?
Here's what I would do, because when we are submitting our applications, we want to make sure that there's not a doubt in that agent's mind that you were in fact here. And even though they only care about the last 5 years and ensuring that you were here before 16, what I do for my clients and what you should do is go ahead and give them all your transcript from kindergarten. Let them know you've been here since you're little. So include that, and include whatever other community service you have done. If you've gotten awards, if you've gotten involved, give it to them, but give it to them organized. Create a table of contents with the document, and what you are going to do is paginate your documents. So besides the applications, anything that you are including, you're going to paginate. Put a page number, handwrite it. So that in your table of contents you have, for example, birth certificate with translation, this is the page. High school diploma, there's the page. 2012, pages blank through blank. 2011, and work your way back 5 years, and then get your calculator out, put in your date of birth, add 16, make sure you give them documents to establish you were here before that date. And you should be able to submit your own process if you've never had any criminal history. For those that have had criminal history, you should talk to an attorney before you submit anything, because if you submit a deferred action request when you're ineligible, and if your crime fits within the priority list for ICE's removal procedures, you might not only get denied, you might begin your own deportation process. Immigration has said that they're not going to share. USCIS, there's different branches within immigration. USCIS, which is the department that's taking care of deferred action, has said that it will not share any information obtained with either Border Patrol or ICE. ICE is in charge of the removal proceedings. However, if fraud is being investigated, or if that person falls into the categories, meaning if you have a domestic violence conviction, or if you have a drug conviction, you are probably going to get denied. Well, you are going to get denied, but you are probably going to get a letter eventually from an immigration judge asking you to present yourself in immigration court. I only caution those that have criminal history because I know that we want a work permit. I know that we're desperate to try to do what we can to work here legally. I know, and I recognize that. And sometimes in our desperation, we try to take shortcuts. And in our desperation, we might think, well, I had that domestic violence, but that was so long ago, and I didn't really do anything. I'm just going to file anyway. That conviction stands. And you should know that even a permanent resident, someone that's had their card for 10, 20 years as a legal permanent resident, if they get convicted of domestic violence, they can trigger their own deportation proceedings. So that's just to put into perspective what a domestic violence conviction can do within the immigration process, which is why it is important that you go to an immigration attorney if you have criminal history, because there are a million people now doing immigration work as a result of deferred action. They may not recognize what happens next and what is the consequence to you. A lot of times people are not going to care what is the consequence to you. They don't care. Give me your money, I'll send it, good luck. They don't care. That happens a lot. And I think, in my practice, I turn away, let's say I have 100 people that come to my office asking about immigration relief, asking what they can do. Currently, maybe 10 have relief. Because a lot of us, they'll walk in and they'll be like, I've been here all my life, what are my options? I ask them questions about their family ties, and I see no avenue for them. And it's my responsibility to tell them, I cannot do anything for you. But there are people that will say, great, give me $5,000 and I'll see what I can do. That's why you have to be very careful about who you turn to. What other questions do we have? We have a light crowd. I went through it pretty quickly. If we have no questions, then I think we may adjourn. But